So I was interning with the trade union of street vendors in Kenya for 2 months, making them these documentary clips that would advocate and promote them. And I met really dozens of amazing people who I thought I could tell you about, who I had a lot of really meaningful interactions with, and who I learned a great deal from, really spending hours and days filming, living with them, figuring out how we were going to tell this story. But I thought, since we're in a cold, drizzly day in the university, and I'm a college student, to talk about one individual who I didn't spend days with, but rather around 3 hours, 1 hour at the beginning of my visit and 2 hours at the end of my visit. And this person is a professor at Nairobi University, who is otherwise known as the mother of the trade union. So this trade union was started by a professor at Nairobi University who wasn't planning on making a trade union. She was researching street vendors. And just so you get a picture, roughly 10% of Kenya, according to the statistics, are street vendors selling food or shoes or shirts on the streets. And she was trying to understand how she could help these people organize themselves and fight for their rights. And what she discovered after a series of interviews for a year is that don't we implement the Western concept of a trade union, which in my mind, by the way, when I was told I'm going to a trade union of street vendors, I imagined like 19th century England, people walking around with banners and stuff, but this was not that. To implement that idea on the streets of the big Kenyan cities. So I was taken to meet this woman, Professor Winnie Matula, on my my third day in Kenya. And everybody was kind of doing this thing of saying, oh, you're going to meet Professor Matula, you better prepare yourself, she's a very important lady, this is a very important lady. And I'm like, okay. I walk into the university, I'm taken, and she was very polite, but my sense was kind of, oh, this is another foreigner coming to do nice work and then go. I'll give him the quick spiel of what this union is. And I sat there and she gave me all this information about the informal economy in Kenya and what it means to be street vendors and what development is and da-da-da. And I was just kind of writing it down, okay, development, we're empowerment and talking about all these things, and it really didn't connect to any image. And I didn't have she was like, do you have any questions? I was like, no, this is wonderful, and thank you so much. And I left, and I didn't think I'd see her again. But what ended up happening is in those 2 months that followed, when I was filming with the street vendors, whether it was in the slums or in the markets or in bus stations, street corners, her name would come up time and again. So you'd have people in Mombasa, which is near the Tanzanian border, saying, oh, have you met Professor Matula, Mama Matula? And I'd say, yes. And, well, tell her that, she helped us with this. And I'd be in, Eastern Kenya is Mombasa. If I'd be in Western Kenya near the Ugandan border, also this name of this professor would come up. And I began figuring out that many of the questions that I was curious about, or many of the words that she was telling me at the first meeting, actually had suddenly real implications or things I was actually seeing on the ground. And I began asking myself questions that I couldn't get answers from the people I was working with, like about the grand scheme of this union that people in the grassroots level didn't know to answer. And I realized that she would hold the key to my questions. So, a month and a half into Kenya, 2 weeks before I left, I tried to schedule another meeting with her. And I called her up, and she was really busy, and she was almost rude to me on the telephone. But she said, okay, I'm very busy, I'll give you 20 minutes for an interview. And I was petrified. Now, I'm making a documentary, so I need this nice sit-down interview of a professor speaking with books behind the desk saying, Knasfit is the union of I needed it, so I was thinking, how am I going to get this together? And I actually spoke with Marcy on the phone. That was the midpoint conversation, and I was petrified. Because suddenly, here I am, a college student, interviewing this woman who all the street vendors all over Kenya admire greatly, and I'm going to try and make something out of this interview, look her in the eye and ask her questions and get the answers I need. And so I didn't sleep the night before and wrote down all these questions I wanted to ask her. And I went in, she said, okay, I'm giving you half an hour, and kind of sat down, and I was doing like the sound test, and she was kind of, can you hear me? You know? But what, and really my first question was, can you tell me about this union of street vendors? And then she kind of gave me the rehashed story, which you could tell she told at least, I don't know, 100 times, hundreds of times. But then my second question was, why are you doing this? And her answer was, I don't think she was expecting that, I have to say. Her answer was, I was born in Nairobi, this is my country. And even though most academics, and then she looks at me, this puny college student, and says, most people would say I'm wasting my time talking to you right now. Because really, universities, you're just supposed to study, get grades, write a book, get a profession, and leave. But she said, I believe that you can actually, that here we can actually make a difference, that this knowledge is worthwhile. And if I've been trained and I'm here in Kenya, this is my home, and I'm going to make some sort of difference here. And that's what's leading her, working, both teaching and then leaving the university and doing that. So I just thought I'd mention her because leaving Kenya, leaving this really surreal environment, which is very hectic and busy, and then returning to Brandeis, which quite frankly, even though we all say that it's very busy and hectic, it does not compare to what all of us were doing in the summer, is that those words stick with me. And I really hope that, you know, all the classes, whether they're in theater or in whatever, that they're not just for nothing, that they will have some value one day.